Okay, hello. My name is Matthew, and this is part two of my 5K Q&A answers video. So thank you again. This is great fun, and I really do appreciate that people watch me or listen to me. Okay, so here we go. This is the next question. This is from Trip. Hello, Trip. Congrats on the 5K. Do you have any poems memorized? What are your favorites? Um, so let me think. God bless our good and gracious King, whose word none relies on, who never said a foolish thing, nor ever did a wise one. Much did I rage when young, being by the world oppressed, but now with flattering tongue it speeds the parting guest. Now that lilacs are in bloom, she has a bowl of lilacs in her room, and she twists one in her fingers while she talks. Ah, my friend, you do not know. You do not know what life is. You who hold it in your hands, you let it flow from you. You let it flow. And youth is cruel and has no remorse, and smiles at situations which it cannot see. I smile, of course, and go on drinking tea. Um, and there's others. I think if I recently read it, I could recite most of The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, just because it's so fun. I don't sit down and memorize these things. I just have read them because they're so entertaining and sort of cast a spell. Like, once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and with each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon my floor. Vainly I had sought to borrow, but anyway. And there's cantos. Again, if I read The Ancient Mariner, picked it up and read through it, there's cantos that I would just kind of sing along to. The way that you get songs stuck in your head. It has that same influence as far as how they get stuck in my head. Alone, alone, all alone on a wide, wide sea, and never did a soul take pity on, or never did Christ take pity on a soul in agony, or whatever it is. um, and yeah, I have favorite poets. I think about one of my favorite lines. It's not like I have a portion of it memorized, but at the beginning of Don Juan by Lord Byron, and he's it's Lord Byron satirizing and poking fun at Southey and Wordsworth and maybe Shelley and Cole, all the romantics. And so the idea that this thing gets published, and then they're called out by name, and it's so funny. So Coleridge, he goes, and it's in the beginning of Lord Don Juan, and he goes, and Coleridge is busy explaining metaphysics to the nation. I just wish somebody would explain his explanation. Because, who understands what Coleridge is talking about? I love it. Okay, Nicholas. Congratulations, Matthew. Thank you. How did you come to love reading? Was it through the influence of a parent or a teacher? Did you come to it later in life? I just talked about this. So it was a very influential friend that I met and became very close to in my late teenage years. And it was one of the one of the first times as a young person that I was having interactions with an adult who was not an authority figure and spoke to me like I was an adult. He was older, he was wiser, he was more experienced, more well read, but he didn't treat me like I was a child or a subordinate, or he treated me like a person and treated me like a young adult. And the way he talked about books, I wish he was alive to have a YouTube channel. Um, he wouldn't tell me, well, you have to read this, you have to read this. We would be talking about whatever, and all of a sudden he's talking about sailing to Byzantium, and he could recite the whole poem and talk about what's going on in the poem and say like certain lines, and the way that he would orate them, the way that he would recite them, would just seem like so compelling. He would saying like that hammered gold enameling, and just think like what a wild, strange, radiant line. And to talk about it, and I didn't get that sense of magic in school. So, and yeah, I mean, I guess later in life is subjective, but I was a late teenager, so I can't remember, but 17, 18, 19, around there. And pretty much as soon as I did start reading, like now, I read every day. It would be a very strange. It would be a noticeable day if I didn't read something. Benji. Let's see. Okay, Benji. Hey Matthew, I hope you're well. I am. Thank you. How do you read so many books? Do you sub-vocalize when you read? I know people who read a lot typically don't sub-vocalize, as it slows down your reading pace. I'm a slow reader, and sub-vocalization is one of the reasons for that. I've tried to stop it, but I don't really take in the book as well when I stop doing it. So I don't consider myself a fast reader in any way. I would say I have read a lot of books. That's more attributed to the time that I dedicate each day and that I read each day. So there's large sections of my leisure time dedicated to reading, where I put my phone away, I've eaten, I've had a drink. It's now time to sit down and spend an hour or two reading my book. Nighttime is always reading time. I get into bed before I'm sleepy, and will typically read until my eyes get heavy. In the morning time, I like to spend a little bit of time, even if it's just a minute or two, reading some poetry. For weeks and months now, it's been the Old Testament. I've been reading through those passages. As far as sub-vocalization, I'll say that I don't have any standardized method. I do sub-vocalize, but not all the time. It really depends on what I'm reading, how familiar I am with what I'm reading. And something that I've noticed about my reading is that it does depend, my reading speed really does depend on the length of the novel. So really big novels, 800, 1,000 page novels, that I'm enjoying, which is critical. When I fall into the book, so I know the authorial voice, I know the style, I know the characters, I know what's happening with the plot, and 200, 300 pages in, all the stuff that when you begin a book you have to pay attention to. Who's this person? What's he doing? What's the author saying? What's the tone of the book? In a really long novel, I kind of get familiar and feel comfortable in the world. And so my reading speed can increase because I have so many parts of the mechanics of the story already belted down. And I can just start almost like a motion picture, but I can just be a part of the story and read it and roll along. And my reading does increase. And it could be, it's not, I don't think about it, but it could be that I'm no longer sub-vocalizing, but I don't pay attention to it. I understand, like if you're trying to do it and you're racing through a text, it really depends on, I can understand if you're racing through a text and you don't get anything out of it. It's something that you could practice, like anything, it's a muscle that you could work on. But it's not like, unless it's important, but it's not like reading fast means that you're reading better. So I hope that's an answer of a kind. Nicholas Bunton. Congrats. A few weeks ago you mentioned offhand that you had just finished Mason and Dixon by Thomas Pynchon. Can you give your thoughts on that book? It sounded as if you didn't care for it much, but I shouldn't assume. I loved it. I think that was March or April. I had like 3 weeks or something where I didn't make, either didn't make videos or made very few videos. I can't remember. But I was still reading, and I read Mason and Dixon, which I thought was very funny, really great. So many wild stories and characters, and the whole presentation of being whatever it was, like a pastiche 17th century novel. So it's written all the way through as if it's this document that's like hundreds of years old, and has the writing style and the abbreviations and the vocabulary and spelling, all to seem as if it's like this older book. Comes across as like a virtuoso performance. I've read a few things by Pynchon. I would say Mason and Dixon was probably my favorite. I tried making a video about it when I finished it. In hindsight, if I had been thinking about it, I would have made 4 videos. At the end of it, it was like maybe a week after I had read it, and I sat down, and it's tough because I do like mental preparation. I do sit down and think about what would I want to say, but I don't keep notes with me, and I don't edit. I just try to talk straight through. And it was a tough book to talk about. Trying to make a 10-20 minute long video speaking extemporaneously. But I did like it. Okay. The 214 Horatio. Hi, Matthew. Congratulations on the milestone. Two questions, but not book related. What did you do in college? What do you work as now? Keep up the good work. So, I'm not sure if the question is what did I study in college or what did I do as work. But then you ask about what I do for work now. So, when I was in college, I had a few jobs. I worked at a geotechnical engineering company, and it was a small building that does like state level inspections for building new roads, building new buildings. So it's geotechnical, which meant they did lab testing on soils to determine the type and density and the specific amount of water that the soil can hold, so they can make adjustments so that when they build roads or foundations, things don't sink and crack and break. And I worked in this lab in the basement. I was all by myself, and I was a college kid, and the the lab the amount of laboratory testing could fluctuate. So some days would be very busy, other days you could just get all of your work done. And I had a great boss. Great. I mean, it was a great place. The owner of the company, my immediate supervisor, and and I was like part time because I was in school. But if I went there and I got my work done, and I kept the lab clean, and I'm all by myself down there, I could sit and read. They had no problem with it. They didn't just boot me out. I made sure everything was all the work was done, the lab was all cleaned up, and if that was the case, and I had a half hour or an hour before my shift was done, I wasn't hurting anybody, and I could bring in a book and read, and basically be on call. Something comes in, I would hop to it and get to work. I had some other jobs. I worked with Ben for a while doing like landscaping and cutting up trees and putting down mulch, stuff like that. And now I work for a nationwide building supply company. It's a retailer that if you live in the United States, I'm not going to say. And I've been there for about a year and a half, and I recently got a promotion. Maybe like 6 months ago, I got a promotion at work. I went from working at a customer service counter where people bring in their returns for credit, pick up special orders, things like that. And I got a promotion where I'm now the HR supervisor, and I deal with staffing and scheduling, essentially a kind of guidance counselor for the stores. So all of the associates, if they have any problem, any kind of issue, any question, I'm there to be available to listen and help them the best that I can. It's a job that has a lot of responsibility, and I really I like the role. I feel like it's a very good fit for my personality. Okay, maybe we'll do one more question. Oh, that's a long question. Okay, so now we'll do a third video. Again, I'll be right back. Thank you.